Surf Shorts Podcast.
But when we stayed there, we met some guys from Texas. They were pretty cool. I got turned on to Primus.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Now you're really dating this trip right now.
Totally.
Yeah. They played at the Mad Monk.
Yeah. Did they?
Yeah.
I did not see that show. I didn't. These guys from Texas, super nice guys. And it's funny how East Coast surfers are. I mean, one of the guys we met in Texas, we ran into him in St. Thomas like 5 or 6 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is super funny.
Yeah. I did that in El Salvador. I met a guy and ran into him in Ecuador like 5 years later.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's another good story. But so I think one of the most memorable things from this trip was, so Don Hilby was the old man who ran the camp. And I think Jimmy was probably mentioning Jorge. I think Jorge was Don Hilby's son or his nephew, but Don Hilby was the old man.
They owned the land there.
Yeah, I guess so. And we, so you string up your palapas. You string up your hammocks in the palapa, and it's just dirt floor, and that's it. Anything you have, you light some candles or flashlights or whatever. But it's super primitive. It was about $3.50 a night, I think, to stay there, something like that, or maybe 3,000 pesos, which might have been $1.50. I can't remember.
Yeah,
I'm not big on the exchange rates in those days, but it was a super cool spot. And so we were in there in our palapa one day, and one of the guys looks up in the corner of the palapa, and he's like, "Look at that!" And there's a freaking massive wasp nest or hornet's nest out there. and I don't know how many Spanish speakers are out there, but Don Hilby would come in every morning just to check on us, wearing the exact same pants and shirt that he wore every day, probably his whole life.
Yeah.
And he would, and my Spanish was definitely not that good back in these trips inspired me to become a Spanish teacher.
Sure.
You being a teacher had something to do with that. It's true.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah. Kristen was like, "Oh, maybe you should be a teacher." She's like, "Matt's doing it." I'm like, "Okay."
It can't be that hard if Matt's doing it.
Yeah, I can go back to school. I can become more fluent in Spanish, and I can get a job where I have my summers off, and I might even make $20,000 a year.
Yeah.
I'll be in the money.
Maybe North Carolina. Hey, we're still shooting for that. Hey, maybe.
So Don Hilby, every morning he'd walk in, he'd be like, "Ta bien, ta bien." Yeah, he was asking.
Yeah.
"Ta bien?" And I would look at William, and I'm like, "Also what?"
Yeah.
Because I thought he was saying "también."
Yeah.
Also,
yeah.
He's like, "Yeah, ta bien, ta bien." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
You're saying is everything okay? And I was like, "Oh, well, and my Spanish was terrible. I was like, "Señor, allí."
Yeah.
I'm pointing up there to the corner of the palapa, allí. And Don Hilby, he's like, "Oh, okay, dame un momento." He's like, give me a minute. So he walks back to wherever he did, to the restaurant or something. He comes back with this huge machete, which everybody in Mexico has a machete, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Everybody in Mexico has a machete for cutting up your coconuts or whatever, or building houses.
Sure.
Dude, I saw some dudes in El Salvador literally notching out the beams for the roof of the house that an American was building with their machetes. Like the whole crew.
Yeah.
They're building the house with machetes.
Yeah.
It's insane. So Don Hilby comes back. "Está bien?" I was like, "Yeah. Yes, we're still good." But it's still there. He comes back in with his machete, and he just walks to the corner of the palapa. And I don't know what kind of wasps or hornets they were, but without blinking, without saying anything, he just reaches up with his machete and just starts freaking hacking away at this thing.
Oh my God.
We're like, yeah. I mean, yeah. So, I mean, just a couple of chops, 2 or 3 chops with the machete, get it down. But as he's doing it, man, they're landing on it. And I'm talking like, go find the best leather couch you can find with the richest, most tough leather. That's Don Hilby's skin, right? So he's chopping down, he's hacking down the wasp nest, and they're like landing on him and stinging him, and he's just brushing them off like it was nothing.
I would have been running.
Well, we all ran out.
Yeah.
Of the palapa. Yeah, we all ran out, and I was just looking at the other guys. I was going like, "What in the world is going on here?" But that that kind of blew my mind. But that was a great trip, and I don't know. That's the most memorable thing to me from that trip as well, for sure.
Yeah, first time out of the country, and you really you really getting a dose of how other people live. Yeah, I'm gonna people listen to the show. I'm gonna scan some of these pictures in.
Yeah, there's the body
for
womp.
This episode.
Yeah, the body.
Oh yeah,
womp
that is some seriously dark chocolate shore break, and it had pebbles in it.
Yeah, and you got to try to find a place to get in. There's a couple of dudes we met from California, and they ripped. Yeah. I think, no, those are Australians. It's one of the
Australians are everywhere. That's the rule.
There's a Californian named Ian that I met the next year. Again, the 2 years kind of blend together, but Ian called me up on my landline at my parents' house 2 years later, like in 94. He's like, hey, man, I'm following Lollapalooza around. I'm coming to Raleigh. You want to meet me there? I'm like, yes.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, he let us in. So yeah, there's just a few pictures of the point. But I'm glad I just had to open this up to remind me of some stories to tell you, because one of the coolest thing that happened, and Jimmy probably knows this, and I think he did mention the beach break that is right across the river mouth from Nexpa. There's a great little beach break that, would break like Masonboro on a really good day, just perfect peeling A-frames.
Yeah, he said they went down there to try to escape the swell, but it was still too big there as well.
Yeah, it's pretty big, but they're
they had just been hit by hurricane, so it was closing out the Rivermouth Point Break.
Yeah, that is insane. So it's kind of interesting that I didn't even know that they would be doing surf contests in Mexico, much less deep in the heart of Michoacan in mainland Mexico in Nexpa. Mm-hmm. But as luck would have it, there's a surf contest while we're there. I don't know about luck, but so we had walked across the river mouth to surf the beach break because it was firing one day. And it was a very, one of those river mouths you could just kind of walk right across, no problem.
Yeah.
And we had those little cameras those little waterproof throwaway cameras with a strap that you wrap around your arm. 400
was film speed, 400 Kodak plastic cameras. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we took these on every surf trip in the 90s, but that was kind of how you took pictures unless you were like a professional. So I'm over there taking pictures and catching some waves. It was great. I had a great time. I caught a few waves. The best picture I took, and I was paddling back out, and James dropped in on this big, beautiful left, and I caught this, took a great picture of him. And when we got home, I guess I sent it to Terry. I don't know what happened, but Terry published it in Juice Magazine.
Yeah.
It was the inside cover where I
remember that.
Where the table of contents was, and there's James just doing a big bottom. No, actually, I think it was a picture James took of me. That would be the only picture of me ever in a surf magazine. I can't even remember.
I remember because we talked about the picture, and I had written articles in that magazine.
Yeah. So I now that I think about it, I'm not really sure if it was me or if it was James, but clearly the Mexicans knew that James was the best surfer of all of us. I mean, William's really good too. Randy, they're all good, but James is quite. He shreds. He's quite stylish. So James comes in before we do, and William and Randy and I stay out for a little bit longer at the beach break. And when we come in, we see there's the beach break. We see James, and he's got like a Heineken in his hand, and he's wearing a tank top that says Rio Nexpo with a little scorpion on it. And I'm like, what is that? He's like, oh, they're I'm judging their content.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So James got, he got free Heinekens, and I think we all got the little Nexpa t-shirts, but James was like judging the contest.
What level contest was this?
I'm sorry to say, Matt, my memory is
my
memory is not what it used to be.
Wasn't a top tier ASP contest. It was, I don't know if in those years there was a Bud Tour at that time. Could have been a Bud Tour.
It was absolutely a Mexican Surfing Association.
contest.
Okay.
Yeah. I got you.
It was a fully local or regional contest.
Yeah.
Because it was basically some Mexican kids. And because I think surfing kind of blew up down there in the late 70s and 80s, and it got really popular.
Yeah.
I'm frankly quite surprised there haven't been more Mexican surfers that kind of made it.
that made it. Yeah, that is a little bit surprising. I never thought about that. I do have one last question about that trip.
Yes.
The first place where the barrels where James backdoored it, you guys are at Pasquale's.
Yeah, Pasquale's.
You said that you had one of Jim's old boards that was a single fin. I mean, I think some people may be imagining you're talking about a longboard, but you're talking about an older tube rider style.
It was
right?
like, well, I didn't even attempt to take it out there. I rode it at Nexpa because it was like a 70s style single fin.
Yeah, I mean those are so thick. Good in the barrel.
Yeah.
The teardrop shape.
But you have to have the skill to get in the barrel. and I'm telling you, man, Pasquale's did not play. I mean, I'll be perfectly honest. I was definitely over my head there. Yeah, and And I was very happy when we went to Next because it was just day after day after day of just easy, smooth lefts and just rippable and breaking halfway down the face, maybe not really any barrels, but James could handle that kind of surf. I'd never gotten that good, and I'd spent 5 years in Raleigh.
Yeah. And it was also your first time out of the country.
First time ever out of the country. Yeah. Other than that, the biggest surf I'd ever had was like maybe double overhead at Hatteras. And so, I mean, it was the cultural experience more than anything.
Yeah.
Is just what opened my eyes. I mean, you see these kids running around, they're dirt poor, they're, smile on their face all day long. And I mean, it just blew my mind and opened my mind. I mean, travel is the best education, really.
It is. Well, dude, thanks. I appreciate the story, and I appreciate you coming, and we'll have you back again. Thanks a bunch, brother.
Appreciate it, Matt.
All right.
All right.